Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Well, this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from the Performance Center was admittedly a little bit better than the ones that they have given us in weeks previously. It definitely still suffered from a lot of mistakes. It was almost like a 50-50 show. Every time they gave you something that made you go, that wasn't so bad, they followed it up with something that made you realize that this show is full of a bunch of big fat steaming poop hammers, and we are gonna go over it all right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
I want to be a nice guy. I want to be nice, and I want to try to give them a little bit of credit where credit is due, and we had some really good promo work tonight. We had an excellent tag team matchup featuring two teams that aren't even really actual tag teams yet, which is the WWE's MO, but in and around all of the good, there is nothing but a bunch of turds raining down on our heads because they just got really thrown for a loop with the whole situation that is taking the world by storm. We're not going to really talk too much about it, but we all know what's happening. We all know why things are the way they are, and yeah, WWE is usually pretty bad, but they are not making the best of the situation. If you take a look at what AEW did last week, they put on a 2-hour show that was very entertaining. They filled it with vignettes and promos and special taped segments and a couple of really good matches, and they gave the show some ambiance of its own, and they really delivered, even without any fans in attendance. And then the WWE steps up, and it's their turn to try to do the same thing, and they are definitely outclassed by what the other company is doing, and they are showing you guys that they don't even know how to do what it is that they want to claim that they are so good at doing, which is entertainment. They did take a few steps on this episode to accentuate the positives and eliminate the negatives. One of the things that they did that I thought was a great idea was they changed the position of the hard camera. So the Raw tonight looked a little bit different, so it immediately felt a little bit different. It didn't feel as empty and as isolated as it has felt in weeks past because they removed all of the empty chairs. Why have all the chairs around if all it's going to show everybody is what's missing? So eliminate that. They did. They added these cool little LED screens all around. The hard camera facing the stage definitely gave it a studio type feel to it, which is what they should be embracing. They should be embracing that studio element and making it much more, making it feel more like Monday Night Raw from its original days. Remember Primetime Wrestling with Bobby and Gorilla, and they used to have, just 2 hours of wrestling, and they were sitting at a desk and they had a little screen and they would throw it to the footage and they interacted a little bit better than what we are seeing in the modern day of professional wrestling as it is. It's just a better version of the show, and it would be a better way to tell these stories and a better way to eliminate the void of not having fans. Just embrace the fact that you're a studio show now, you're not being filmed in front of a live studio audience, and go with it. And they did do that a little bit. But for the most part, what they're doing is adding matches to PC Mania. And I keep hoping, as every day goes by, that they announce that it's not going to officially be WrestleMania this 2-night, too big for one night, we gotta have 2 nights of WrestleMania nonsense. And they had more than enough going on to give us 2 nights of WrestleMania and make it feel okay. But now they're just adding more and more matchups, most of them that don't even make sense, most of them that are happening for no reason at all, like Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. Who gives a shit about that? 2 of the most dominant forces in the blah, blah. What? Who cares about that? Nobody. I cared about as much as that as I cared about having to sit through 2 WrestleMania replays that took over 1 hour of Monday Night Raw. They are so inept at coming up with television that they cannot even come up with enough content to fill 3 hours of time. That they have to go back through the logs of the network and go, well, we'll show this match. We'll show this WrestleMania 32 match with Brock Lesnar, the triple threat match, to show how dominant he was. Who cares? Who cares about watching Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins? It's just another part of wrestling's history that most of us want to remember. Sure, was it a decent triple threat match? Of course it was, but I watched it back then. I don't want to watch it now. It doesn't have any real relevance to any of the matches at WrestleMania that are coming up, other than to show you guys how much of a beast Brock Lesnar is. Aside from that, what do you give a shit? John Cena's wrestling The Fiend. It has nothing to do with that. Seth Rollins is wrestling Kevin Owens. It has nothing to do with that. And Brock Lesnar's wrestling Drew McIntyre. It has nothing to do with that. So what is the point? It has as much point as showing us Charlotte Flair versus Asuka from just 2 years ago at WrestleMania 34. We had to see Charlotte. It was just absolutely necessary to show Charlotte Flair beating Asuka. And this is just another instance of the WWE showing you guys, hey, look, this is how stupid we are. Let's remind you how dumb we've been with the women. And show you the first time that we screwed up big and we had Asuka's streak be dismantled by the Queen at New Orleans, the place where the streaks go to die. I don't want to see this again. I didn't want to see it the first time. It was a good women's match. These girls went out there and beat the shit out of each other, but it definitely had the wrong winner. Just another clear example of the WWE not giving the fans what they want and not going with the hot hand at the time because they have a clear-cut agenda for Charlotte Flair being one of the greatest women's champions of all time. Wasting my time. Wasting over an hour of broadcast time on 2 matches that meant absolutely nothing. And then they do things that are ass backwards, like announcing a tag team championship matchup for WrestleMania on social media earlier this afternoon. The Street Profits, the Raw Tag Team Champions, are going to be taking on Angel, Garza, and Andrade. Which on paper I don't mind. I told you guys on this show, Andrade and Garza should be paired together as a tag team. They need tag teams. And Zelina Vega should be their manager as a unit, and it would be fine. It will be fine, and I'm okay with that. And I'm actually okay with them pairing Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. I think they look like a great team, and I hope that that's a direction that they continue to go with them instead of continuing to bury them underneath a sea of singles competitors that they're never going to get past and let them shine in a tag team division. But instead of doing something like, hey, this matchup will have WrestleMania implications and Cedric and Ricochet will take on Garza and Almas to see who takes on the champions at WrestleMania, which would give you extra added stakes, which would give you reasons to really give a shit, even though this is 2 makeshift tag teams being thrown together at the last minute to get a championship shot in a division that is worth jack shit. It's not the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders, they're being overlooked. The B team has been missing in action. We got, who the hell else even is there in the tag team division over there? You got, the Authors of Pain are being completely just put to the side. They're not even in the tag team division. They're just hanging around with Seth, the Man Bun Rollins, the Monday Night Man Bun. But what's the point of having this matchup after announcing this just to show Angel and Almost in a positive light? You made this matchup predictable, and as good as it was as far as the action was concerned, this was a hell of a tag team matchup, and I enjoyed every minute of it. The fact that you knew Andrade and Almas were going to win based off of the fact that they were the ones already going to WrestleMania is ass backwards booking. And the only good thing, the only silver lining coming out of this is what I have already maintained and have already said to you guys on this show is hopefully Ricochet and Cedric are kept together. I think that's a great thing. It would be great to see them in the tag team division. hey, how about we start working on the tag team division? If you are going to push Andrade and Almas and maybe have them take the belts from the Street Profits, Ricochet and Cedric, based off of what we've seen in this tag team matchup tonight, would be a great feud for them going forward. And then you could add in the Street Profits. You could add in the Viking Raider, Warrior Raider Raiders. You could add in the Authors of Piss. You could add in every single other tag team that you want to come up with. And it would start to feel like a somewhat more fleshed out division. And the type of tag team matchups we would get based off of what we've seen tonight with that particular tag team matchup would be great. But then they follow this matchup up with a matchup for the champions. The Street Profits, in an Untitled matchup tonight, go up against Shane Thorne from NXT and some guy. Had a weird name, and I forgot what it was. We'll look it up here in a second. But the Street Profits struggled against a no-name tag team featuring one guy that I'm familiar with, one guy I've never seen before. And yeah, it didn't go on and on and on, and there was a couple of decent spots. But if the champions are struggling against these guys, what chance do they have against Andrade and Almas? Ass backwards booking. You made the champions look like shit, honestly. And even though Montez Ford has one of the prettiest 5-star Florida splashes I've ever seen, he delivers it absolutely crazy. I just don't understand the logic of having them look like they were struggling against a team that nobody's ever even heard of. Is this going to be a new team on Raw? Are they going to be some new team on SmackDown or NXT? And should we care? I don't know. Are these just the only two guys that were willing to come out and play tonight for Monday Night Raw live on TV? I don't get it. I don't get it. You do have other tag teams, do you not? And I understand that people are social distancing themselves and self-isolating and quarantining themselves and whatnot right now, but you have to be better than that. The Street Profits should have looked better than that, and watching them in that light just makes me think they have absolutely no chance when we get to PC Mania and they defend the titles against the Lena Vega boys. The Vega boys. Hey, we can call them that. Who cares? Because I'm tired of saying Andrade and I keep getting it confused and it's hard to say. Hector, I want to call him Hector Garza, but his name's Angel Garza. But that's the least of my problems with this whole scenario. I just hope going forward that seeing these teams put together here and means maybe they're going to change up the tag team division. I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to speculate when you don't know what the future is going to entail with professional wrestling. We don't know how long things are going to be in the state that they are in, and it's actually making watching wrestling a lot less enjoyable than it used to be, because everything's just so up in the air, and they're just kind of forcing everything upon us. This PC Wrestlemania just don't feel right. It doesn't feel like WrestleMania. When I say WrestleMania, it just feels wrong, doesn't it? You guys agree? I don't know. They had to waste some of our time tonight looking back at what they told us on SmackDown, and the only thing about SmackDown was the Gronk! Coming out, Rob Gronkowski! Acting like a jackass. On Friday Night SmackDown. Why did I have to see that again? Well, I guess the only good thing about it is that I got to show it to you guys again. Because I know how much you enjoyed it from Friday's show. I don't want to see the Gronk. I don't want to see Mojo the Bozo. I don't want to see any 24/7 nonsense, even though Ridiculous Moss lost the championship back to R-Truth, who's 100% comedy gold. R-Truth won back his, hey, look at me, I'm a clown, 24/7 green avocado skin-colored gold-plated championship garbage belt on the street, attacking Ridiculous Moss, then told him he should go back to football and called him Mr. Randy Moss and ran off. Total of 30 seconds was this skit, and it was probably more entertaining than anything else they put together on this night. But this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. With the situation being as it is, we should be seeing more stuff like this. Have your guys filming themselves at home. Do something on your personal media at home. Use your phones. Use your camcorders or whatever. Film stuff. Send it in. Make it unique. Make it different. Make it feel like a studio show. Going to the clips from this guy. This is what Seth Rollins had to say. This is what Kevin Owens had to say live from his home in Canada. Whatever. Make it interesting. Make it a little bit more safer. I don't know what the point is in putting on these shows in this format in front of nobody. Honestly, you could come up with something better, especially if you're an entertainment company. But I guess we got the best they could do. And while it was, like I said, admittedly slightly better, it still was a very, very rough watch and a rough thing to get through. We started out with Paul Heyman coming out and doing his Paul Heyman thing, but he didn't yell and he didn't scream and he was very quiet, and he told us the very same story he tells us all the time about Brock Lesnar and how this guy, Drew McIntyre's not gonna beat Brock Lesnar. He's the most dominant champion ever, and he wants to tell us all his accomplishments and how Brock Lesnar beat John Cena. He beat Hulk Hogan, Triple H, blah, 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 blah. But am I supposed to forget the fact that Brock Lesnar also lost twice to the Monday Night Man Bun? And if he could lose to Seth Rollins, I definitely believe he could lose to Drew McIntyre. So all of this is just your typical week in and week out Paul Heyman hyperbole bullshit hyping up his beast. And it's the same old song and dance. And quite frankly, I don't believe it that much anymore. And neither should you. We've seen him lose on the grand stage multiple times now. Brock Lesnar is not the threat he used to be. If you could lose to a Messiah clown, then you will definitely lose to Drew McIntyre, and I'd believe it. Definitely a waste of everybody's time here. Then they aired the Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Rollins triple threat from the Royal Rumble in 2015, which nobody really gave a shit about. Did I say that was from WrestleMania? No, they're going to show WrestleMania 32 this Sunday on ESPN, I meant to say, but that was that triple threat match from the Royal Rumble. Well, yeah, sure, it was a fun match when it happened. Definitely didn't need to happen again on this show. We had kind of a silly AJ Styles promo. He was doing some good stuff, but now he went back into cringe territory. He wanted to compare The Undertaker to the guy from the Tiger King show, this new Netflix show that everybody's been talking about. It's about some weird fucking guy that lives with tigers. The Undertaker apparently filmed some wildlife preservation fucking ad to save the baby tigers all over the world. And AJ Styles and his wonderful swooped mom hairdo thought that this was the time and place to talk about this. And it's just the WWE trying to stay relevant, and they gave AJ a bunch of really cringeworthy stuff to say, but he also did make mention of the fact that he wants to bring back the Dead Man, which I don't think anybody really wants to see that much anymore. We were all kind of getting excited that we were going to see the American Badass come back, and it would at least give you a reason to be excited to see The Undertaker again. We've seen the Dead Man beaten at WrestleMania a couple of times. We haven't seen Big Evil beaten at WrestleMania, so it would give you a little bit of more of a reason to care. But it doesn't seem like we're going that route, because AJ Styles flipped his hair all over the Performance Center and told everybody, hey, I'm going to challenge The Undertaker, and I want Mark Calloway to be the Dead Man, so I'm going to challenge him to a boneyard match. A boneyard match. And what bonehead in the WWE's boneheaded creative pool came up with a boneyard match? You know what a boneyard is? A boneyard is like a wildlife graveyard. It's something you find out in nature. You'll see the bones of elephants and tigers and all kinds of crazy things. You've all seen The Lion King. Remember when Simba and Nala, they went into the place in the shadows that you're not supposed to go? The elephant boneyard, the graveyard full of bones. So we're not going back to the American Badass. Where is this boneyard that we speak of? Why aren't we just calling it a graveyard? Is it not going to be a graveyard? Is it going to be some sort of an actual yard full of bones? And while the whole time AJ is talking, you kind of felt like he was going to challenge The Undertaker to a buried alive match, which would kind of be interesting to see. We haven't seen one of those in a while. Instead, we get this announcement of a Boneyard match. What the hell is a Boneyard match? Tom Phillips doesn't know. Byron Saxton doesn't know. They said it just as I was thinking it. We don't know what that match is, but I guess it's going to be at PC Mania. So it looks like the WWE are probably going to go off-site. They're going to take AJ and Taker somewhere special. They're going to film something. Maybe something very similar to what we see Matt Hardy do in recent years. You know, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. What the hell is a Boneyard match? I'm going to find out just a little bit under 2 weeks. Other than that, not really much said here. It kind of made AJ Styles look a little bit silly. Then we had the tag team matchup. The United States champion Andrade with Angel Garza and Zelina Vega defeated Ricochet and Cedric Alexander in a little bit over 20 minutes. It was a great matchup, a lot of good false finishes, a lot of really good action, and I really thought this was a tag team showcase featuring two teams that aren't even tag teams, which we're all used to by now. WWE, when they don't know what to do with you, they just throw you in a tag team and then start feeding you to the wolves. Especially if you're Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, which is the only negative that I can put on this matchup, is the fact that these guys just continued and continue to get buried in a way. Putting them together tonight, after the announcement of the tag team matchup, showing the world that they're not going to win before the match even gets going, is proof of that. You could have gave everybody a chance to believe in that team if there was a shot at the championship, but then I'd be sitting here saying, as much as I love Ricochet and Cedric winning this matchup, what did they really do to deserve a shot at the championship? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You can't win. Like I said, for all the good that might have come out of it, there's just a bunch of negatives. So it's not improving, although it's not getting drastically worse, but that lack of improvement makes me feel like I'm just stuck in wrestling hell. And seeing the same kind of shit happen to some of the most talented guys in the world over and over and over. Tag team champions, the Street Profits, defeated Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink. Brendan Vink. You wonder why I couldn't remember his name? Because it's fucking ridiculous. Brendan Vink? Guy I've never seen before. I don't even think he's been on an NXT episode just yet. But here he is on Monday Night Raw, taking the tag team champions almost to the limit. Ridiculous. 5 minutes, the champions win, while looking like they were struggling to do so. They ran down the WrestleMania card, which now includes Elias versus King Corbin, because, hey, why not? Why not? We got two nights to fill with matches now. Why not throw more garbage on the dumpster fire? Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley, as we already talked about. More kindling to burn WrestleMania to the ground. We had a Shayna Baszler sit-down interview. Charlie Caruso looking very uncomfortable, selling Shayna Baszler as the monster she is. Shayna at first didn't have much to say, just staring daggers right through Charlie Caruso. I thought she was going to snap and choke Charlie out. And actually there was part of me that hoped she would do that, because that would be pretty much what you would expect from a Shayna Baszler. And she did get aggressive, and she did get lippy with Charlie Caruso, and she said that you want me to be a beast, you want me to destroy things, I'm here to destroy things, and she wants to destroy Becky by taking the championship from her. And then out of nowhere, Becky Lynch comes and attacks Shayna Baszler with a chair, gets the advantage over the challenger, and then walks out with her head held high. Shayna Baszler left like a bag of dirt in the middle of the ring, trying to sell Shayna Baszler I'm trying to sell Becky Lynch as if she has a chance in this matchup. It was decent. Wasn't the worst. I feel like Shayna Baszler maybe is nervous about being in this spot. She's usually very solid on her promos, but she seemed a little bit shaky here. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being overly critical. You can tell me, because you always do tell me, but I think that could have been a little bit better. Or maybe I'm just losing interest because of the way they booked Shayna Baszler so far. It's just not been the best. I mean, they're making her look like this rabid maniac. They're calling her the cage fighter now. But they didn't need to do all of this. She was already very well set up, and all she needed to do was come up and start kicking ass. She didn't need to start biting necks and walking around in the Elimination Chamber for 5 minutes doing nothing on multiple occasions. This could have been better, could have been worse, but it did what it had to do. Aleister Black showed up to the Performance Center to go out and wrestle for 1 minute. And on nights like tonight, these are not the type of things we need to see. We don't need to see Leon Ruff, whoever the hell he is, come out there, act like a complete buffoon, act like a chicken shit, not want to be involved in the match, and then get completely murdered by a black mass kick that sent him back to wherever it is he came from, and hopefully we don't see shit like this again. This is unnecessary. A 1 minute squash match for Aleister Black to hype his matchup with Bobby Lashley at PC Trash Mania? I certainly don't care about that. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins had a face-to-face tonight. Kevin Owens wants to challenge Seth Rollins at PC Mania. He feels like he has the advantage because it's happening at the Performance Center. Seth Rollins with a decent promo tonight. He came out in his man bun with his girlfriend's jacket on, and then he decided to tell everybody and Kevin Owens that, I never performed here at the Performance Center, but this Performance Center was built on my blood, sweat, and tears. It was me that put NXT in the position to be where it is today, so there would be no Finn Balor, there would be no Gargano, there would be no Ciampa, there would be no Takeover, and there would be no Kevin Owens if it wasn't for Seth Rollins. And I thought this was a great direction to take it. I thought everything he said was true, and he said it with conviction, and it actually didn't come off as cringy as Seth Rollins usually comes off. Maybe it's because he didn't have his minions by his side, and I liked the one-on-one interaction without that very cliched, oh, here come the Authors of Pain from the empty crowd to attack Kevin Owens while Seth Rollins is speaking. None of that happened. This was just a straight back and forth. Seth Rollins kind of put Kevin Owens in his place because Kevin Owens was tired of listening to Seth Rollins run his mouth, but Seth was like, nah, you're going to listen because I got one last thing to say, and I want to ask you, why would you challenge me at WrestleMania? WrestleMania is my day. His career is full of WrestleMania moments, cashing in that money in the bank on Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, winning the Intercontinental Championship, and among many other moments Seth Rollins has at WrestleMania, beating Triple H. And what has Kevin Owens really done at WrestleMania? Nothing. Seth Rollins brought that to light tonight, brought that right back into everybody's mind, bringing it to the forefront of your mind and giving you reason to believe the guy has actually got a point. I don't like to give him credit at all, but the guy has a point. This was a very good promo. It actually gave you a reason to be a little bit more invested in Owens and Rollins, but at the end of the day, this is just going to be another singles match. It's going to happen in front of no fans. It's going to have no life to it, and I don't really care. Nor should you. I don't think anybody has any good enough reason to be invested in this, unless you just really hate Seth Rollins that much that you want to see Kevin Owens win. But we could see this anytime, any place. We've seen this for months on end going on between the two of them. So if this is a blow-off, hopefully it's the blow-off for good. I'm just tired of seeing it. There's not many more places they could take it after this. But it was interesting, and I guess that's the least we could ask for. After this is when they add Charlotte versus Asuka from WrestleMania 2018, WrestleMania 34. And I already told you guys what I didn't like about it. I told you guys what I didn't like about it on the WrestleMania 34 review. And how it was just a shame that what they did to Asuka that night, there was no clearer time in her career that the stars were all aligned. And the WWE had one job, and that was make Asuka the champion that night and start to give a more legit feel to the women's division and make Charlotte learn that even in losing in a match like that, she would have came out in a much better light. I think people wouldn't be shitting all over Charlotte as much as they do now. She would have lost gracefully. She would have showed the world that she knows how to put somebody over, and it's not just about getting herself over, because if she knows anything about pro wrestling, even she knew that Asuka was the way to go that night. But she's going to do what the boss says, and we had to watch it again tonight, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it the second time, I didn't enjoy it the first time, and I'm not going to enjoy it if they ever show it again. Absolutely ridiculous. Best part of the night was Randy Orton. As always, Randy Orton and Edge, and this storyline is the most compelling thing in the WWE right now, maybe across all of professional wrestling, if we're truly being honest. And when Randy Orton delivers a promo like he delivered on this night, you have no other choice than to believe that. He delves deep into the history between himself and Edge. He talks about how everything he has done out of love. And the one thing the WWE did here that I really enjoyed is that they were, as Randy was talking, they were showing clips and highlights and pictures and still photos and stuff. And, you know, they didn't have Randy Orton stop and be like, well, let's take a look at this now. No, it was just Randy talking. He was just spilling his feelings out. And you would see these random images of Randy and Bob Orton. And a young Randy Orton, Randy winning the championship at the youngest age in history. It makes everything feel so much better. The one thing I didn't understand is why Randy Orton was dressed to compete. You're not going to have a match. Nobody's there. You're going out there to cut a promo. Why didn't you come out in your streets? Who are you dressed to fight? Why are you ready for action? I don't know. Maybe he did it for the ladies so that they could see his Viper a little bit more clearly. I don't know. Randy Orton said some of his words have been misunderstood. Some of the things he has said has come from a place of love, but they've been taken out of context and people are looking at them as an act of brutality. And he looked dead into the camera and he had a message for Edge. He wanted to apologize. I want to apologize to Edge because I lied to Beth Phoenix. He said Edge is not a junkie for the roar of the crowd. Edge is a junkie for Edge. He said Adam Copeland is addicted to being Edge. And that might be true. And you can't fault him for that. He says that Edge comes down on him because everything he's gotten was handed to him. And he had opportunity handed to him. And then Randy Orton goes on and says, but just because I was guaranteed this doesn't mean that a Hall of Fame career is what I was going to have. He then talked about how Mick Foley didn't give him the torch. He took the torch from Mick Foley after he spit in his face. Some really intense stuff. He remembered winning the Intercontinental Championship and the world title early on in his career. Mick Foley handed Edge the torch. But then Orton took the torch after being thrown into a pile of thumbtacks. He said grit wasn't about sitting on the couch for 9 years wondering, what if? He said to him, grit means being the one constant in the locker room. He looks around the locker room and doesn't see anyone who has accomplished anything close to what Randy Orton has accomplished in his career. And I think he's got a point there as well. Orton said he had more grit than Edge. And now this matchup has become the matchup of who has more grits. Personally, I like my grits with butter and maybe a little bit of maple syrup or maybe a little grape jelly. That's how I do my grits. Orton said he did love Edge. He loves his daughters and tried sending him home to them. But now Edge wanted this last man standing match. Randy Orton also wondered if Edge would have ever actually said no to a guy like Triple H if he offered him a spot in Evolution. Obviously pointing out that if Edge were in the same position as Randy, he probably would have done the same exact thing. Randy Orton was writing the last chapter and is going to end this story once and for all. Looks dead into the camera, tells Edge he accepts this challenge for WrestleMania, and Monday Night Raw goes off the air. Slightly better than weeks past, but still just full of crapola, really, with a few rare exceptions, couple of decent promos, one excellent tag team matchup, and really nothing else. And the real story going on that's overshadowing everything is not even what's happening with Monday Night Raw. It's the fact that WrestleMania is still planning on going forward, and it's going to be this 2-night thing, and it's just going to be one of the most awkward nights of my life. It doesn't feel like WrestleMania. I don't even want to call it WrestleMania. That's why I try to call it PC Mania now as much as possible. I'm very hopeful still that the WWE is going to move WrestleMania to a pay-per-view Sunday in the near future. But being that everything is still so up in the air and nobody knows when things are going to get back to a little bit of normalcy, this just might be the plan they're going to go forward with. And maybe it's time for everybody to get a little break. You know, maybe after WrestleMania, they just take a little break. Everybody go home. That's what we're all supposed to be doing anyway. We're all supposed to be staying home, right? Go take a break. Have like a little off season. Maybe this is nature and God telling everybody, hey, everybody, take it easy. Let's slow down a little bit. Everything's getting crazy. So everybody straighten up and take a couple of weeks. Get your heads right. And then we'll get things moving back forward on a later date. What would be so wrong if they took a couple of weeks off? Let everybody go home, let everybody rest up, really flesh something out for the entirety of the rest of the year. That would be my play. That would be the smartest move. Why are you going to continue to have to keep paying everybody to do nothing? I don't know. It's a strange time that we're living in right now. 2020 has not been the kindest to any of us, and it is only getting worse by the day out there. And I'm trying to bring you guys a little bit of levity and a little bit of fun in here, but the WWE sometimes doesn't allow me to do that. And they give me a Monday Night Raw like they give me tonight that had potential to be good. And maybe if Monday Night Raw was 2 hours and they had to trim some of this stuff down and they took out the replays that they forced us to sit through, this might have actually been a decent show. But alas, that was not the case. Thank you guys so much for joining me once again on another episode of the Monday Night Raw review right here on Sledgehammer TV. Don't forget, if you had a good time here today, smash that subscribe button. Become one of the over 2,400 plus that know when you want your wrestling news bullshit free and full of fun and honesty, that this is the place to be. Don't forget, if I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if I made you understand why tonight's PC Monday Night Raw was another, 50-50 mess, hit that like button right now. Let me know you enjoyed the show. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to know why everything that is going on and need a little bit of clarification as to what should be going on. You know the guy to send them to, and that would be this guy right here. Who am I? I am Nick Nightmare. This is the team Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. Don't forget to check out every single thing we have on the channel for you guys to look through, because the most important member of this team is each and every one of you, and we have got tons of wrestling content for your viewing pleasure, including our AEW reviews, our pay-per-view reviews, which have been coming at you rapid fire recently, and now there's really not much going on. So if you missed the AEW review, go check that out. The SmackDown review has gotten rave reviews from most of you because of my little Mojo the Bozo and Rob Gronkowski segment, which you got a little teaser of tonight. But if you want the full-blown reaction, you can go check out the SmackDown review from this past Friday. It's there for you guys live in the annotations up above. Thank you all so much for being with me. That is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom.